And then I woke up the next day, and the next day someone reached out to me because someone was having an abortion and they needed support. And it was just like this kind of like, oh, like there's so much in the seen and unseen realms that like collaborate to create, yeah, our practices, or like that are just being woven together to allow for this care to be offered. And so, yeah, that was like my first client that came through. And so since then, I continue to give thanks to my ancestors and my guides, and pray for my clients to come to me. That just feels like a critical and like foundational part of what built and maintains my practice.
Welcome to the Infinite Earth Body Podcast, where we talk about bodies, healing, pleasure, and share stories of embodiment on Earth. I'm your host, Maya, and I'd like to start by taking a few moments to ground, root into our connection to the Earth, call in the support of our most benevolent ancestors and guides, and set the intention for this shared space of connection to be dedicated to the liberation of all beings. Today is Menstrual Magic Moon Day, where we're going to be featuring stories about menstrual cycles, fertility, contraception, pregnancy, and birth. I'm so excited to introduce Cera, our guest today. Cera, she is a dedicated clinical herbalist, medicine maker, abortion doula, and fertility awareness educator. With deep reverence for the land they reside on, which is Ohlone land in the beautiful East Bay, California, they embrace the profound connection between herbalism and the path towards collective liberation and reproductive autonomy. Welcome, Cera.
Hi, Maya. I'm so happy to be here.
So happy to have you here. And just wanted to start with asking you, how is your body feeling today?
My body's feeling grounded but anxious at the same time. Like I feel like my lower body's like it's deep in my chair, but like my head is like da 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 da. So to be honest, that's where I'm at today. Yeah.
Yeah, is there anything you feel like you need right now to feel a little bit better in your body or?
Hmm. Great question. I think that, yeah, I have two beverages right here. I have some matcha and some water. So I'm going to keep on sipping on those. And I think that as we get the conversation flowing, the rest of my body will become grounded as well.
Okay, great. So I was wondering if you'd like to share what was your experience when you first started your period?
Thank you for this. Um, I had like known what a period was for years, and because all of my friends had got their periods, I was like one of the last people to get their periods. And that was like, I had already the story started of like, what's wrong with me? What's happening? Why am I doing things later? And I was actually, yeah, I think I was in seventh grade, and we were doing like learning about surveys, and we were taking off like these different questions, including like how many sodas do you drink a day, and I realized that it wasn't normal to drink 3 sodas a day. And so because of this like moment of like, I don't know, realizing that what I was doing was different, I stopped drinking as much soda and I started drinking water for like the first time in my life, and within a week I got my period. And my
Mm.
period was brown blood, and I didn't expect for it to be brown. So I was like, is this my period? Am I like, I don't know if I can be explicit, but am I shitting myself? Like I wasn't sure what was happening. And then I realized over a couple of days, like, oh, this is my period. So I started taking pads from my mom's bathroom because I was still too embarrassed to say anything because I still wasn't sure. Um, and that was my first period. And I think that like within that first period, I started using tampons because I also had a shame about pads. So like, yeah, there was a lot of shame and secrecy, but also like this clear connection that like hydration was essential for my body to go through that shift.
Wow.
Mm.
That's amazing. Yeah, this is our third Menstrual Magic Moon Day, and the first two with where I share my story and Sylvia shares her story. We also had brown blood on our first period, so I wonder how common that is. And I also had the same thing of like, am I shitting my pants? What's going on? Like, so yeah, I wonder how common that is. The first bleed is brown.
Yeah, I think it is pretty common and like it's not talked about enough.
Hmm. Yeah, so how has your experience of your menstrual cycle evolved over the years through different phases of your life?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I've like successfully um, removed all that shame that I felt as a young person, and um, my bleed now is like a really tender time to connect with myself. And when I bleed, I do my best to minimize my work or stop my work as best as I can. It's not always possible, but like just being with myself has been really helpful. And I also use like very different menstrual products now. Like I only use pads, reusable pads, because I've learned that like having things inside me actually causes more cramping. So it's actually, yeah, I think it's also like as I get older, of course, my periods change, but like I don't experience painful bleeds anymore. Um, and every cycle I have, I collect my blood. So I put my pads in like a gal like after they're filled with blood in like a half-gallon jar with some water. And then it extracts the blood out, and I give that like bloody water to a tree in my backyard. And so I, instead of like hiding my tampons at the bottom of the trash can like I used to, now it's like something that I pray with and I always give back to the earth, which is like very steep and yeah, very different than what it used to be. Hmm.
Beautiful. Yeah, I
Yeah.
actually have a question that I've been wondering about personally when I do that.
Hmm.
When I collect blood with my cloth pads and water,
Hmm.
and sometimes, like if I'm not right on top of emptying it out and giving it to a tree, I wonder like if it's been sitting for more than like 24 hours, I wonder if that is bad for the tree. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, it's
Mm.
not super fresh, so it's been sitting, so maybe I should just dump it down the toilet, you know,
Mm.
or not give it to the tree. Do you have any insights about that? I've just been wondering this and
Yeah, there's one thing I like to always at least remove my pads within maybe a few hours because I'm worried about like the cotton or like the pads getting funky of just sitting in that water with my blood that's getting more funky. But I think that and I'm not like a landscaper and there's a lot that I can learn about like the plants from like a scientific perspective, but from my conversations with plants, like I think they like it funky. Like when like the compost like sits out, like I've made compost tea before, and I feel like the funkier the better. Um, yeah, I think that. I mean, I don't necessarily keep my blood out intentionally because I think funkier is the better, but I think that the earth is really great at literally composting that bacteria or like literally like digesting all of that. And I haven't had bad reactions on my plants if it's kind of sat a little bit longer, but I'm definitely a little bit more concerned if the pads are soaking in the water for longer and the bacteria that can grow in the pads.
Mhm. Oh, all right, great to know. Thanks for sharing.
Mhm. Yeah.
Do you feel like sharing what day of your cycle you're on today?
Oh my gosh. This is a great question. And I'd say I'm about on day 29. Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah. I ovulate around day 21, so it's been about a week since I've been in like my big, big F or like peak fluid time. Um, but I still have about a week until I bleed. My luteal phases are kind of long.
mm. Well,
Hmm.
yeah, I think I'm on day 25, so I'm
Oh.
probably about like 4 days out from my bleed. So,
Hmm.
mhm. And what was your path of getting into tracking your cycle? Like you're talking about like Big F and luteal phase. I feel like
Yeah.
those words are becoming a little more common, but I think there's
Hmm.
still probably a lot of people who don't know about cycle tracking and fertility awareness. So how did you get into tracking your cycle and learning about fertility awareness?
Yeah. When I look back, I'm like always like in awe of like the chain of events that like impact the course of one's life. I'm just like, whoa, this is wild. I would have never expected this would lead to this. I was living in Boulder, Colorado in 2012. Ooh, was it 2012? Ish. Um, I don't know. I actually shouldn't say the year because I can't say it accurately. But around that time, give or take a few years, there was a really intense flood that hit Boulder. I remember the first night of the rain. Me and my friends were drinking wine on a porch and we were having a good time. And then we realized the rain didn't stop. And because of that intense downfall, the roof of my house caved in and I lost my housing for one of the first times in my life. And I needed to find a new place to live. And so I went on all these different forums on Facebook at the time, and I was like writing, like, I'm looking for housing, I'm looking for housing. And an old friend of mine, Katie Bicknell, reached out, or she became a friend in that moment. She like was like, hey, my landlord's renting out a space next door. And it was like such a rush to find housing in Boulder because so many people had lost their housing because of the flood. And so I moved in to be her and her husband at the time, Will Sachs, neighbor, and they were the creators of Kindara. And Kindara was the first menstrual tracking app. Now there's like thousands out there, but they were the first. And they like opened my eyes. So like because I lost my housing, I connected with Katie for the first time, and then I learned that like, oh my gosh, there's this whole way to know your cycle and track your cycle. And I remember the first time she told me about it, I was like, there's no way that I could like look at my fluids and my mucus, my discharge is what I called it at the time, and like know if I'm fertile or infertile. Like I had been taught since I've learned is kind of called like the hyperfertility myth, like that. Like literally, the first time I took a pregnancy test when I was young, like I took a pregnancy test before I ever had sex. Like I had like, can I be explicit? I don't know what to
Yeah,
talk about.
totally. Be explicit. Yeah.
the, the first time I'd ever like touched a penis, I was like, oh my God. And like they had ejaculated. I was like, oh my gosh. Like it was on my hands and I like touched myself. Like I'm pregnant now. Like I was so scared. And I still didn't have that same like story in my mind as, when I was younger, but there's still this like every single day of my cycle I can get pregnant. And so it was just like it shattered so much of like that fear and concern and like this idea. So yeah, living near them and like, seeing them as they were building up this app and seeing how passionate they were about it, I was like, okay, I guess it's real. And so I ended up leaving Boulder in like 2015-ish, and was going on my own journey, and decided to take out my IUD. There was different things that prompted that. And when I took out my IUD, I like committed to learning how to track my cycle because for years I'd been using the Kindara app, and there's other apps that I like. Just I'm saying names of apps. Like I now use Read Your Body; it's my preferred app. Um, but I had been using the apps to like track my period, but never like really figured it out because I was pretty dehydrated and I didn't have that much cervical fluid. Yeah, hydration is so important. Mm. But yeah, and so I had this really big change in my life. Decided to leave Boulder, decided to travel, and took my IED out, which was a really big deal for me. And I was like, I'm learning it's now or never. And so that launched me into this life that I've had for the last 10 years. Hmm.
Do you feel like sharing more about why you decided to take out your IUD?
Yeah. So I had graduated from college in Boulder and like had decided like I'm gonna save up my money and then travel. And like 3 years had passed and I'm like, okay, I guess it's time now. Like I'm just like, okay, I have enough money to travel now. Um, and like I kind of like I don't know if I like kind of looked up at the stars and I'm like, I'm ready for the lessons. Like kind of like postured at the universe, and I'm like I'm here to learn. And I've learned since then to be more humble because what happened was I started bleeding and I had a period that lasted almost 3 months.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was really big because I just quit my job and I was going to lose my health insurance. I went to the doctor and the doctor's like, well, essentially what I remember is like they told me like this isn't cancer. We don't know why it's happening. Maybe get your IUD out. And so I got my IUD out, um, and the bleeding continued. So it like was maybe it was connected, maybe it wasn't, but like I had my IUD at that point for maybe 5 years or so. And it's over, it's in a book. I kept it. So I made a big art piece around it, but um it was like this protector for my uterus. Like it had the insertion of the IUD was I was not prepared for it. It was very uncomfortable. It was like piercing a portal, literally, but it was like my protector. And so to take it out was such a big leap. Um, yeah. And then it ended up being like my travels, and meeting different healers and medicine people that led me to, in my connection with the moon, which I'll share a little bit more later, that I feel like led to my normal menstrual cycle or like my menstrual cycle regulating. But yeah, it was part of this healing journey of like, what's going on? This is scary. Okay, this is just what the doctor suggested, so I guess I'll try it. Yeah.
I like hearing about your IUD as a protector and that you had that like a positive relationship with your IUD until
Yeah.
it was time to shift it.
Yeah, it was a copper IUD and I had like the heaviest periods ever in my life. But like every time I had a heavy period, I was like, okay, like this is what was my contract with it. I was like, okay, this is what is part of the deal, I guess. And I was thankful every time I bled. I'm like, woohoo, it's working.
Hmm.
But I remember those were some of those heaviest periods that I've ever had, for
Yeah, I
sure.
think that's common for some people, right, with IUD to have heavier bleeds.
Hmm. Especially
Yeah.
the copper one.
Hmm. Yeah, so that's intense that you were bleeding for so many months. That must have been really depleting.
Yeah, it was. And it was such a calibration because I was like, okay, like the doctors have no answers for me, and they're just like, maybe it'll stop. And I'm like, okay, like you don't seem that concerned, but I'm concerned. And so then that's when and that started to make me calibrate to like who are the knowledgeable people in my life. And it was like the midwives and the herbalists. I was like, what do I do? They're like, okay, you probably just need a break. So here are the herbs to at least help you have a break from your menstrual cycle to at least figure out what was going on. Um, Yeah, it was like it would really help me orient to the people who actually knew to not just to like give me the herbs or the medicines that help, but like to care for me too. Yeah, taught me a
Hmm.
lot.
Yeah. And what's your favorite part of your menstrual cycle and cycle tracking?
Yeah. Um, my favorite part, I love every part, but the luteal phase can be challenging sometimes. Which is like the end of the cycle. Um, My favorite part, though, is around ovulation time. So there's different, so I'll just, you know this, but I'm just going to share that like there's different types of um, mucus or cervical fluid or discharge that like tells me and tells people that like ovulation's approaching, and the like peak fluid or like the more fertile quality fluid that's stretchy and clear. I didn't make for the first almost like decade of give or take 8 years of charting. Like I didn't make any sort of peak fluid, and so now I do. And so whenever I do, I'm like, heck yeah! Like I used to think like I can't. I thought maybe like I had damaged my cervix because of my IUD, or I had thought like, my body just like can't do this. Um, and that was kind of sad, or like, it's like kind of like, like, there's acceptance, but there's also like what's happening. And so it now, like, because I'm drinking a lot more water and because movement, when I move my body, there's such a direct correlation, like that when I move my body, that's the cycle where I have that stretchy, clear fluid. Um, and it's super rewarding. Like the positive feedback loop is super strong. So when I get to that part of my cycle, I'm like, it's super exciting. Like my underwear is full of gush, and I'm like, yes, I have to change my underwear. Or I don't wear underwear as much, especially since like 2020, and I've been spending a lot more time at home. And so it's just like a gush of fluids will go down my legs, and I'm like, oh, I'll try to show my partner. I'm like anyone around if people around me usually like understand it's coming, so it's like there's consent there. But like I'm like, look at this, look what I made. Like it's like so exciting to feel like that reward of um, seeing that lifestyle change in action.
Yeah, it's amazing. Hydration and movement. Our bodies, need it. So I definitely identify with that. Like I've always had a lot of peak type fluid, but still every single time it's exciting. I'm like, ooh, yeah, we're doing it. And what was your path getting into becoming a fertility awareness educator?
Yeah, so it's like what's the chicken or the egg? Like what happened first? But like I started studying herbs. I started studying like abortion care, which is part of my path. And then I think I realized learning more about abortion care and being an abortion doula that it felt like there's this gap around people understanding how they're becoming pregnant and let there being more access to options outside of the medical industrial complex, I guess I'll say. And I also wasn't sure how I'd want to conceive one day, whether it be with like another human or like with like donor sperm. So I was like, I just want to learn about everything I can to support myself in my future pregnancies and to support my community in future pregnancies or the pregnancies that they don't want. So um, I started looking into programs, and that's when I found the Well, which is where I was certified. And there aren't that many options out there. There's like a few options. More and more are kind of popping up, but in terms of like certification, um, Cera seems like the best option. And so I applied, and I'm really thankful to got in, have been accepted. And yeah, it was a 2-year journey of studying with her. Hmm.
Yeah, so for the listeners, that's how Sarah and I connected, that we were both graduates from that program. And can you share more about your path becoming an abortion doula?
Yeah, so I was at my first like herbal school, so I had been studying herbalism kind of like my friend who was like a botanist. We'd like kind of go up into the hills and he'd be like, "This is what this is," and I would go back home and Google like, "What does this do?" Which isn't the best way to learn about herbs. But I ended up and eventually went to like I decided to go to this program, Herb Farm, which is a tincture company. They used to or they do have like an internship where you like live 3 months, if I remember. Maybe it's less than that, but 3 months or so on their farm and you learn herbs. And so while I was studying herbs, I just felt like I really wanted to learn about abortion care and started Googling my like to see where abortion doula trainings were, and I found one in the Bay Area. And the Bay Area Doula Project, now named the Bay Area Abortion Support, they were doing a training, and so at the time I found their website, like they weren't didn't have any trainings, but I got on the email list. And so once they were doing a training, months later, I went to my first training and I was so ready. I was like reading all the things about abortion, understanding the historical context of abortion care within herbalism and like all of these things. And then it was just like quiet for a long time. Like I was like, I'm so ready, but like I didn't connect with anyone about it. So then I started praying for my clients to come. And two of my ancestors on my father's side came to me. I haven't learned their names before, but in the dream, it was so clear it was them. And they just like looked at me like arms crossed, like, why do you think that you are ready for this? They're just like, I don't know. Like I always know it's an ancestors because they're kind of harsh with me, like on both sides. They kind of like tell me how it is. Um, and I was like, I just really want to do this. They're like, you need to get your life in order. Like, you need to take care of yourself, like in ways that you're not. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And then I woke up the next day. And the next day, someone reached out to me because someone was having an abortion and they needed support. And it was just like this kind of like, oh, like there's so much in the seen and unseen realms that like collaborate to create, yeah, our practices or like that are just being woven together to allow for this care to be offered. And so, yeah, that was like my first client that came through. And so since then, I continue to give thanks to my ancestors and my guides, and pray for my clients to come to me. That feels like a critical and like foundational part of what built and maintains my practice.
Wow, amazing. Yeah, and it sounds like I'm kind of asking the questions backwards of like fertility awareness educator, abortion doula, and then herbalist. It sounds like you kind of started with herbalism and then went into abortion doula and then fertility awareness. But and you've shared already a little bit, but is there more you want to share about your path becoming an herbalist?
Yeah. So it was really clear after like a couple years of just kind of like learning here and there about the plants and just like I mean my whole experience of having that 3 month cycle like taught me a lot about the herbs. And but then I realized I just needed something more formal, so I interned at Herb Farm, and when I was there someone's like, I think you need to learn with Atava. I was like, okay, I will look into that. And I had actually already Googled and found Atava's program. It's so funny. Google has gotten me a few places, even though now I use DuckDuckGo and there's other search engines. But just to mention, it's like truly, has guided me in certain ways. And so I found my teacher, Atava Garcia Swiecicki, who's now based in New Mexico, but used to be in the Bay Area. And yeah, she had this program that um, there at the time there was a clinical herbal program and like was centering ancestral medicine. Essentially, the program like taught you about the plants, but also was a container for you to dig into what your ancestral medicine is. And it just felt like such the perfect container. So I moved to the Bay Area before ever even like getting into the program. Like was the first one to apply. Like a person like, okay, Tava, I'm ready. Had my interview, and thank goodness, she accepted me, and that led on to like this 4 year path of becoming a clinical herbalist with her. Um, yeah, she's such an incredible teacher, and um, has written a book on Curanderismo and called the Curanderix Toolkit. So I just want to name that. Um, and I, at the time when I was going through that cycle of bleeding and kind of finding myself in a way, I was looking for a practice that would continue to teach me throughout my life. And I knew herbalism was that, like the plants, even this many years down the road. I think I started studying in 2019. Um, I think. I need to get my dates right. That's the one thing I should have taken notes on before this. Maybe it's been a little bit longer than that
Ah,
since I've
linear
been
time
for
is an illusion.
yeah,
It's,
for so many years now. I've been studying formally, and like the plants still continue to teach me. Like it's like such a blessing to have a practice, because like once I think something is stagnant, like there's another layer to it, and like it's something else to reveal. And like I needed purpose in my life, and the plants really gave that to me because it's such a dialogue. The plants are so alive, their spirits are so loud. I have some yarrow hanging, and I'm just like, oh hey, like it's just like it's this practice that really brings so much like abundance, and um really thankful for it because it's like connecting with my ancestors continuously, and this practice that I hope will care for my future family. It's like this, it's really loving and also sometimes um I don't know, strict. Like it takes a lot of discipline too. Mhm.
yeah, I've had some medicine making experiments, and like one time I tried to make a wild carrot seed tincture, and then I never got around to filtering it out and bottling it, and I was like, now I just use it as like ancestor offerings because I was like, I never, but yeah, I realized I don't always have the like diligence to be an herbal medicine maker that requires definitely some discipline sometimes.
Yeah, pressing the medicines. Like I'm like, okay, we're gonna do it all at once.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah, you talking about the yarrow that's like saying, hey, like over there. I had a dream once about um yarrow, like drinking yarrow tea, and I was like, oh, I guess yarrow is speaking to me. And so I was just like trying to cultivate my relationship with Yarrow. Do you have anything coming up that you feel like sharing about Yarrow in particular?
Oh my gosh. Thank you for asking. I didn't even realize we talk about Yarrow. It's like makes my heart flutter. Um, Yarrow is an incredible protective herb. Great to grow outside of your home, someplace where it's like easily accessible near your kitchen, whether it's like right outside if you have a space to grow it near your kitchen, because it's so helpful for wounds. If you ever cut yourself in the kitchen, or you're outside playing and you get a scrape, you just chew up some of the leaf and put it externally on the wound. And I also really love to have yarrow around because it's like it's what I you work with when I want to break a fever. And there's, consult with your local herbalist, and like learn, as you will in your own life. Um, but I harvest some of the flowers. I'm like thinking of cutting cutting off the flowers, but like I harvest some of the flowers, mix it with some sort of mint, maybe elderflower. I have elderflower and I drink that when I'm trying to break my fever, and it's so, so good and nourishing. And when I had that very long menstrual cycle, yarrow was one of the first plants that was suggested to me to help stop the bleeding. And so I was drinking a bunch of yarrow tea to help just give my period a break. And yarrows, it's super intelligent in that like it will respond to the environment and it can increase blood flow or it can decrease blood flow. Um, yeah, I prefer it as a tea. It's okay as a tincture, but there's some constituents that can be kind of harsher when it's in the alcohol form. So I like to stick with the tea if I can. Um, it smells so good too. Do you recall the smell of yarrow? It's like the sweet smell.
Yeah, I've only worked with it dry, so I don't think I've ever smelled fresh yarrow, but
Mhm.
I would love to smell some fresh yarrow. But yeah, I was going through a period of drinking yarrow tea for a little bit because I was like, okay, I think this is maybe my cycle is calling for some yarrow tea and just like honoring the dream messages. So, yeah, that also reminds me, I have another random question for you that I actually have a tab open. My friend just told me last night that they had a dream with me and the
Mhm.
plant foxglove came up and I was like, "What's foxglove?" And they were like, "It's a plant." And then so I was just looking it up online and it's like this magical plant associated with fairies. It's like very
Mhm.
toxic, I
Mhm.
guess. So I was just curious if you know anything about foxglove that you feel like sharing.
Yeah, so it's all like the dose makes the poison. So it's a poisonous plant, but it can be used in like specific instances at a low dose. And like what that low dose is, I'm not going to say because I can't say off the top of my head, but it's like drops and for like a short period of time, I think. Um, but there's this thing called the doctrine of signatures where like plants will look like what they treat. So foxglove has like that speckled flower, which is thought to be like speckled blood. It's like really helpful for heart health. And so, which Yarrow is too, is a supportive of heart health. Um, so yeah, I'm curious about, why it may come up. Maybe your heart needs some support, or it also like has that protector energy too. So if you're able to grow it, put it out in front of your front door, just kind of like protective in that way. Or I wonder if because it kind of has like that forget what they're called, but like that longer flower um, shape, which is usually like good for hummingbirds. So I wonder, I don't know if they avoid it because it's poisonous, but I wonder if it'd be a hummingbird supporting flower plant as well.
Mhm. Oh, cool. Thanks for sharing. I just wasn't planning on asking that, but
Yeah.
like speaking of which, yeah, I guess there's mythology around foxes wearing them. Like fairies
Mhm.
helped foxes wear them on their feet to protect them from hunters, and so there's a lot of like mystical, magical mythology around foxglove. So super interesting.
Um, if you're ever concerned about working with like the physical medicine of a plant, you could always work with the flower essence. So I'm curious if who makes the flower essence of flower foxglove.
Yeah, I'll look into that. Yeah, and this whole podcast, the theme is just about bodies and embodiment. And I'm wondering if you have any stories to share about what being an abortion doula, an herbalist, and fertility awareness educator has taught you about bodies and embodiment, or if you have any stories that come up you feel like sharing.
Yeah. What have I learned so much? One of the biggest things I've learned is that we should have been taught these things about our bodies at a younger age. Like, it's still so confusing to me as to why. And also being an educator, how challenging it is to teach young people because there's so many safeguards or like, I mean, safeguards, but like um, walls up around really teaching people about their bodies. I think for me in my own journey as like a fertility awareness educator and like learning about my cycles through it is that like a lot of the work has been to like kind of release myself from any like ideas that something was wrong with my body. Like I feel like people are not all the time, but often like looking to me to be like, what's wrong with me? And it's like, no, like look at all the things that are like working or like, wow, like this is, this is the range of normal. And so it's been helpful for me to just kind of normalize like variation in cycles and also in my own body. And I really dream of a world where like everyone can have an abortion doula if they'd like. Everyone can access fertility awareness education if they'd like, and anyone could have herbal medicine if they'd like. And I think that looks like a lot of change needs to come for us to prioritize that as like a culture. And I do think there's a lot of strength in community. Like if there's someone in your community that knows about herbs or knows about fertility awareness, like that collaboration, I think that can come of like community network building makes us really strong. And so that's the future I dream of is like continuing to strengthen our relationships and um, supporting um, each other with sharing what we know and supporting each other, yeah, in the ways that we can in community.
Hmm. Yeah. And you've already shared some stories about your personal body journey, but we all have such unique body experiences. Are there any stories coming up that you want to share about your personal body journey?
Hmm. Um, I don't know if this is so unique, but like my journey has been to like love my body. I think that like it's really sad for me to reflect on how early on I didn't like my body and like just the reinforcement it was from other kids making fun of my body or like whatever it was, seeing things from the media. And so like especially as I get older, especially as my body changes, it continues to change and grows that like I have to love my body now, not what my body's going to be in the future. This idea that like I still feel this pressure to like look at like I don't know, look a certain way or prioritize the way my body looks over way my body feels. And like, yeah, right now I'm still in a process of like disintegrating that and like really loving my body for what it is today and understanding why it's growing and understanding um for this like the scars that I have. I got this like scar, you can hardly see it, but there's a scar on my lip that I got from a dog bite in like my mid-20s. Um, and at first I was like, oh my gosh, I have a scar on my face. But now it's like, yeah, I don't know, every scar, every like wrinkle, every yeah fold in my body is like something I've grown or I've gained through my life lived experience, and I really am learning to appreciate that because loving my body and appreciating my body is like yeah comes with from within me. It's not going to come outside of me.
I definitely identify with that journey. Learning to love my body has been a long, long journey for sure, and ongoing as it changes for sure.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I feel like, yeah, I imagine there's people who are not indoctrinated with like colonial capitalist cultures, and like I'm sure there's cultures where people are like loving their body and don't have to go through that journey, but I feel like a lot of us who have grown up in the United States are definitely have had that kind of like growing up with hating our bodies, you know. So yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can identify with what you shared. Mhm. And yeah, so this podcast and this work is so connected with the moon cycle. We've been releasing episodes like every new moon and full moon, and especially people with menstrual cycles and all earthlings, all the beings on earth, we're like so connected to the moon cycles. So I know you have a particular connection and practice with the moon. Do you feel like sharing more about that?
Yeah, I'd be so happy to. Um, Ever since I was like a little kid, I always have like had this like love affair with the moon. It's always like, oh, I like love you so much. And so I've always felt connected to, particularly to the full moon. I've prayed and like sat in circles with the new moon, and I appreciate the new moon, but like I am with the full moon. And so when I started bleeding many years ago, like I had that 3 month menstrual cycle. Um, yeah, that was a whole thing too. I didn't mention this. But during that time of like trying to figure out what was happening, I actually ended up like drinking some of my blood too, talking to my blood, being like, what's going on? And like just trying to like, yeah. And I think that all part of it, everything, whether it be like, yeah, there's like this snowballing effect that happens, or like a little bit of medicine will like accumulate with the other medicine. But during that time, I was praying a lot, talking a lot to like my what I would call like my higher being, um, and asking them like what's happening and like what do I need to do to get back on track? And like praying with the moon was like this clear message over and over again. And that led me to this ceremony called the Moon Dance, which I've been participating in for the last 10 years or so. It's a 4 night ceremony where we pray to the moon. Um, And with that has come like the commitment to pray with every single full moon. And so every single full moon, like rain or shine, or whether I'm alone or with someone, like I am praying with the full moon. And that's part of my commitment to my health, to my cycle, to this earth. Like the moon, it's like it connects us all around the world, but it also it connects us through generations. Like I know that moon that I'm looking at is the same moon my grandmother looked at, her grandmother looked at, and that my descendants will look at. There's just something there that like if there's time travel, it's like it happens when we're all looking at the moon. And like I have had my own journey with my mood and my emotions that have been challenging at different parts of my life, and I come to believe that if myself and more people did more moon bathing, then our hearts and our spirits would be that much more harmonious and happier. Like we don't only need sun, we also need moonlight too. The way that it like illuminates the shadows in the world, it's just like can be challenging, but it's also like such good medicine. And there's so much strength and wisdom that comes from the moon, both in like when I myself have had irregular cycles, even since I started bleeding again, or like having a more regular cycle, there's still like some irregularity to it sometimes. And I think to like what is like the moon have to say? Like where's the moon cycle at that helps me become more regular? Or people who aren't bleeding anymore, people who don't bleed who want to connect with the moon. It's like connect with the moon cycle, connect with mugwort, connect, there's so many other rituals that can come through. And so I just really trust her as a guide and as a resource, um, and as a connector, like amongst people, and across generations.
Beautiful. Thanks for
I,
sharing.
I love her.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, the definitely central theme in everything in my life, the moon for sure.
Do you sit with the full moon or new moon or both, or is there anything you can
I
share with me?
do. I mean, I've been in a practice I've never been so consistent with like actually this podcast, and
Hmm.
like I send out a newsletter that I've been really consistent about sending out on the new moon and the full moon. And so that has been a really nice kind of commitment where I've never been that committed to being like, okay, this has been like this podcast process that I'm like in ritual with releasing the episodes has been my most consistent moon practice I've ever had. So um it's like yeah, I know we both have a connection to the Mojave Desert, and when I'm in the desert, it's just so magical being able to like see the whole trajectory of the moon every single day and night. Like, it's just you can always watch the moon rise and the moon set. And so when I'm not in the desert, I really miss the whole vast open sky of being able to just know exactly where the moon is at all times. So yeah, when I'm not in the desert, I feel a little more disconnected from the moon, but a lot of times I'll look at the moon and being like, oh, it's time to like write my next newsletter and release my next podcast episode. So that's been really yeah, just a nice practice to have that. But yeah, definitely have had moon circles, like new moon circles or full moon circles for different things. And whenever I do like classes or offerings, I'm always looking around the moon cycle and kind of like basing like scheduling and calendars around the moon. So that's kind of like my main calendar is the moon cycle. So, mhm.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I'm so happy you're bringing that timekeeping piece into it too, because it's like such a beautiful way to understand and connect with like there's other ways to keep time. There's other ways that time has been kept for millennia. Um, yeah, and to see the passage of time, like no matter what, the moon's going to continue to change, no matter what's happening in this world.
Yeah, and just like the menstrual cycle, it's just nice having that reset every month at the new moon and being like, okay, it's time for the little mini death rebirth cycle to start over again. And like the full moon, just like ovulation is just like, exciting. Like the energy's higher, and especially in the desert, just like where there's not a lot of light pollution, like it's so just magical, the twinkling moonlight, like everything just looks extra magical at night. And yeah, and that actually brings me to another question I thought of that I wanted to ask you about. Um, we had both talked about, like, I guess you used to live in the Mojave Desert, right? And have a connection to the winds of the desert, and your practice is called Wise Winds. And so yeah, a lot of times in these episodes, these podcasts, people have brought up the water element as like being such an important part of people's relationship with the water. And I like being in the Mojave, I've learned so much about cultivating my relationship with the wind. And um, I shared with you that I'm very like air sign dominant. So I get like the high winds of the Mojave have taught me a lot about like I'll get destabilized very easily by the wind. Like I feel like I get all like my air sign gets whipped up and then I'm destabilized, or sometimes I get energized, and it's taught me a lot about just like letting go and releasing and allowing the winds to flow through and carry whatever needs to be carried. And so yeah, I loved hearing your connection with the wind. And do you want to share a little bit more about what wise winds means to you?
Yeah. Um, So when I started selling herbs or like started vending herbs years ago, I had such a hard time finding a name for my practice. I was like, is it my name? Like, what is it? I cycled through a couple different names, and actually, I like was masturbating one so much. I'm gonna say be honest. I was masturbating one afternoon, and there's like so much generative energy when you masturbate. There's just like, and I orgasmed, and I look outside the window, and there's like this intense like wind that came by, and I'm like, my name is Wise Winds. Like, and so it was honestly that moment that there was like this creation, like, um. So there's the actual story, and I, for many years, have been cultivating my communication lines with spirits and with the unseen. And I think one of the like loudest dialogues that I can have, one of the loudest dialogues I can have with any of the elements, but it's not entirely true. I like talk a lot with fire too, um, is with the wind. Like it'll talk back like really clearly. And yeah, it's really like exciting to work with that cover then that dialogue. And so um when the winds come, it like reminds me to listen deeply and to pay attention. Um, I think that there's a way that like the wind can demand presence. Fire can too, but the wind can demand presence that like I really need because I'm kind of like in my head and like something's happening. And I actually don't have much air in my astrology, like in my chart. Um, and so it's also something that I'm like reaching for to understand because like I am mostly fire and some water, a little bit of earth, but like I'm like sometimes I'm like I can't breathe. What's going on? Um, and so I welcome in that air element because it's a mystery to me as well. Hmm.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
I love the story of how wise winds came through too. Yeah. Are there some ways that you like taking care of your body and pampering your body that you feel like sharing?
I've been really appreciating castor oil packs. It's something that I've been doing more and more to relax and I've been using and I used to do like an electric heater, but now I'm doing like castor oil directly on my skin with a hot water bottle. There's something to like I guess like the science of like hot water versus like electrical current that I like just appreciating like the low tech nature of it. Um, this is kind of like to soften and soothe and like release. So that's just kind of where if I was in a phase of my life, it's to soften, soothe, and release. Um, yeah, and been taking my multivitamin. I've been and like paying attention. I used to think like it was normal for like my nails to constantly break and for me to lose my hair. I'm like everyone's losing their hair and their nails are breaking, and I'm like actually I can take care of my nails more. I can like I've been using like an oil over my nails. So like a lot of like um oils and serums and like intention because no one's gonna do it but me. So I have to slow down enough to take care of myself in ways that make me feel good and nourished and all like lubed up.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm glad you're bringing that up because I feel like castor oil packs are something that I really need. Like they've been a really big part of my gut healing journey, um, and I'm always feeling how important they are for me. But for some reason, it's the habit that I just never get around to. I think because castor oil is messy, and I also love using my electric heater because it
Mhm.
can go all the way across like my entire like my liver, my womb,
Mhm.
get hit all my organs. Um, but I've also been like, oh, I need to shift to a like low EMF heater, and but the water bottles just don't, I feel like they don't cover enough. And
It's
so
not gonna be the same.
I
Mhm.
know, so I'm like, maybe I need a few water bottles, or I've been looking at like one of those like gel. Um, yeah, like someone suggested a gel heater or a heat pad. So yeah, I'm definitely, and then I'm like putting off actually doing it because I'm like, oh, I got to figure out my heating situation um and yeah, I've done it where it's where you have the cloth and
Mhm.
then the plastic and then the heat pad and it just feels like the whole thing's like really messy. Hold on.
Is your mom okay?
Yeah, she's okay. She just needed help with something, but I'm like, I'll get to you later.
If you need to take a break, it's okay. I'm
Oh,
happy
it's
to be.
okay. It's fine.
Okay.
Something's going on with her phone. I don't know. I feel
Oh,
like
okay.
tech is like getting harder to navigate. So she's getting more and more confused by tech stuff. So
I am too. I
yeah.
am too. Yeah. Like right now, my goal with technology is like, how can I filter out AI? So I've figured out because I still use Google sometimes. When I Google something and you put minus AI, it won't actually show Gemini, which is cool.
Oh,
But like the fact that there's like no opt-out option hardly right now, like that's anyways the work that I'm trying to figure out is how to um, minimize AI and also how to understand cybersecurity a little bit more using VPNs and Tor and how to navigate the internet with more privacy.
totally. Yeah, I appreciated your 2 week limit on on your signal messages. And I'm like, oh, I need to. I'm part of a little like security culture club on Signal, and they just set the
Cool.
settings to that. Um, so yeah, it's so easy to be slacking on that stuff. And like, it's so much to always stay on top of.
Hmm. It is, and it's constantly evolving and changing. Like I think, like, oh, I understand it now. I just need a VPN and a Tor browser. It's like, actually, no, that's just like the bare minimum, and maybe you need this too. And like, but it's like, I don't know, it's a constant. It's like, I don't know. I kind of like the game of it. I'm like, I'm gonna stay 2 steps ahead if I can.
Hmm.
The Digital Defense Fund is a really awesome resource. I don't know if you guys need any sort of resources for your security club, but the Digital Defense Fund, I highly, highly recommend.
Yeah, I feel like this little like tech tangent, maybe we could leave some of it in.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah, I'm happy to talk about tech. That's a whole other thing too. Is like the fact that like existing in this like cyber world is like part of it, and surveillance is only on the rise. And so, how do we stay, maybe we're still taking risks, but how do we stay as safe as possible? At least take some precautions. And I think it's, yeah, learning about what the risks are even is part of it.
Mhm. Do you feel like sharing anything about how you've been navigating that with your abortion doula work?
Mhm. I really feel like there's such a strength in collectives, so like that community piece again. And so like working anonymously underneath like the shield or veil of a collective is really great. And so I do take certain precautions like working using apps like Signal or e-teaching my clients how to use VPNs and what Tor is, and like taking the time to do that, even if it takes more time. The thing about being more like secure online is that it's so inconvenient. It's so inconvenient. Like convenience is part of what keeps us hooked to like compromising ourselves a bit online, is
Totally.
because it's like, oh well, two-factor authentication is like annoying. It's like, just to
Mm-hmm.
be honest, like it's annoying to have your phone, like it's like I have all the things, type in the second password, but it's just, yeah, things are take a little bit longer. So continuing to go to workshops and continuing to understand how things are changing and practice them. So like I'm based in California, but that doesn't mean that it's not still a good practice to use Signal. It's still a good practice to um, use VPNs when I, want to, because it's an illusion that like being in a quote unquote blue state protects us as much as it could. I mean, like things are just changing. We just don't know what the future is going to hold, even quote unquote blue states. Um, it's better to know these practices before you need them and to teach it to people in other states who do need them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that was kind of an important little tangent we just accidentally went on. But yeah, so before that we were talking about castor oil packs. So yeah, anyway, I'm just excited to get back into castor oil packs. I'm
Mhm,
always like, that's always on my list. So thanks for the encouragement. Um,
mhm, of course.
yeah, is there anything else coming up that you want to share about self-care practices or about anything in general?
I really, really believe that food is medicine. And so I just like pray for a world where we have access to clean water and uh, food and clean air, and we can be in reciprocity with the earth, that we can like remember what it means to be in reciprocity with the earth, and to slow down enough to listen to what the earth needs, and to support the earth in all of the changes that they're going through and that are to come. And thank you for inviting me onto this podcast. It's like really a pleasure to tell these stories, and um, to understand that like, yeah, the work is also so connected to the earth. So thank you for this container that you've
Mm.
created.
Yeah, thank you so much for being so generous with your stories and where can people find you online and learn more about your work and connect with you?
Yeah, I have a website. It's wise-wins.com, or I'm on Instagram, and my handle is at CERA wise wins.
Okay. So we'll
So
link those under
mhm.
the podcast and
Yeah, and I teach classes periodically about historical abortifacients, plants that help people bleed, and um, fertility awareness classes. I really love the opportunity to teach, and so I'm once or twice a year I will be on Zoom teaching things. So whether through my own platform or through the platform Holistic Abortions.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to just take a moment to close this container and seal the medicine we shared and give thanks to our most benevolent ancestors and guides.
Mm.
All right, thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Maya.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. Be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening or on YouTube, and feel free to leave any questions, other topics you'd like to hear about in a future episode, or anything else you'd like to share in the comments. Please leave a review for the podcast, and if you'd like to go deeper in the conversation in our inner circle, you can join our Infinite Earth Body Collective Patreon. You can see the link in the show notes, and thank you again for tuning in, and see you in the next episode. Underneath me.